You guys know that you've raised over $200,000 to help Ukrainian units counter Russian fiber optic drones. But just what gear is being actually deployed to the front lines? Well, we've got some footage that is cleared for release by Ukraine Aid Ops, and we are going to take a look at all the units who have put your gear to use. Okay, so we're going to see just how it's being used on the front lines and how it's keeping soldiers safe. Okay. So this is the first one of the RTAN unit. For those of you that don't know, RTAN is from the Military Intelligence Command. This is their not essentially. They are the Ukrainian answer to the CIA Special Activities Division. So these guys are serious dudes. So a REB is a signal jammer. So it jams not fiber optic drones, but instead the radio frequency drones, which still pervade the battlefield, right? One of the reasons that Russians are forced to use the more expensive fiber optic drones is because REBs are all over the battlefield. And, one of the things that Ukraine Aid Ops does, they don't buy things they think units need. The units go and they say, listen, here are our needs right now. So anything you can do to help us with those needs, that's what they go out and acquire. So it's not based on speculation. It's not anyone's guess what these guys need. It's exactly what is necessary.
Який допомагає захищатися від ворожих дронів, проводити евакуацію, забезпечувати логістику, а також особлива подяка YouTube каналу Престона, який своїм захист від FPV разом з UAO зібрав кошти на отримання даного засобу РЕП.
I'm kidding, of course. I donated myself to his fundraiser. Ah, really hitting my soul right there. That's okay. Because who else do we have? Of course, we've got these guys here, right? Let's take a look on Instagram. This is where you can see their current MO. This is their fiber optic defense with red dots.
Це помпова рушниця, яка наразі виконує дуже велику функцію по збереженню особового.
So this is something that we have seen in other channels in other videos, which if you guys are a member of Combat Vet News, you've seen it basically for months now, is that these shotguns are the really best way to counter Russian fiber optic drones, right? Because they can't be jammed, they can't be intercepted, not at the sort of timeline that is necessary. And so simply having specialty shotgun rounds is actually the best way to counter them. And a highly reliable pump action shotgun is basically it.
По складу на лінії бойового зіткнення. Вони використовуються для збиття дронів, FPV дронів, які несуть...
Right, so there's an example of a destroyed Russian FPV drone. I think this is a radio drone because, the fiber optic drones have a large fiber optic spool at the bottom of them.
Дуже велику загрозу нам. Для того, щоб більш точно та швидше наводитись та стріляти, знищувати їх, ставляться сюди на планку Пікатіні.
Okay, so actually YouTube's policy is that I can't show a weapon being modified, but what you're seeing is the red dot sights go on the drone,
або колімат,
on the rifles.
Приціли.
Now, the overall takeaway is that if you've ever used a red dot sight, it's designed to quickly, with both eyes open, raise up and engage targets much more quickly than you would with iron sights. And yes, a very veteran skeet shooter can learn to do so kind of by feel, but believe me, the pressure of having a Russian FPV bearing down on you, you want to be able to just sight and go, especially because if you're someone, even like me, I've shot a lot, I've shot a good amount of trap and skeet, and learning to sort of shoot by feel instead of by lining up a shot is almost unheard of. It is almost unbelievable. It is a huge change to how you're trained to shoot. Whereas training to shoot down with a red dot sight is very, very intuitive.
І за допомогою них можна набагато швидше це зробити і врятувати життя своє та життя побратимів.
So, I think, again, the takeaway here, but wait, there's more. There's also the quad bikes, right? We've talked about the fiber optic quad bikes. Why they
Бажаємо
are so
міцного
essential.
козацького здоров'я. Ми бійці 2-го батальйону безпілотних систем Air Hunters 59-ї окремої штурмової бригади Сил безпілотних систем Збройних сил України. Ми працюємо на складному Покровському напрямку, захищаючи суверенітет нашої держави і
So again, these guys are fighting in Pokrovsk, the absolute hub of Russian operations.
територіальну цілісність та наших людей від збройної агресії Російської Федерації. Завжди так було і так буде. Наш основний пріоритет – це збереження життя наших побратимів. На жаль, оптоволоконні
Right. We've taken a look at this elsewhere on the channel, but Russian fiber optic drones are extremely dangerous, and they are extremely effective at targeting both dismounted people who move slowly across open areas and vehicles, as we point out, because these vehicles are big targets and they have to stick to main roadways.
дрони, які масово почав застосовувати наш противник на передовій, дуже ускладнили нам виконання наших бойових завдань, а саме логістику до передових позицій. Ці оптоволоконні дрони знищують нашу техніку на підході до передових позицій майже масово. Оскільки пікапи часто знищуються, бійці вимушені долати відстань понад 10 кілометрів.
Right. They talk about the high attrition rate among pickup trucks because, again, they're big, hot, bright targets. I mean, they're so easy to see. But the alternative is 6-mile walks on foot.
Пішки, несучи на собі все обладнання, при цьому знаходитися постійно в зоні ризику бути ураженим цими дронами. Такі засоби, як квадроцикли, допомагають нам на зараз зменшити цей час знаходитися в зоні ураження.
Right. They spend less time in the high risk zone. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to, right? It's one of those things where the Russians, because they were encountering way more drones way faster, right? The Ukrainians were kind of in the lead in terms of FPV attack drones and bomber drones. The Russians ended up being in the lead of realizing they could counter it with small, high mobility vehicles like quads, desert crosses, and motorbikes.
Цими дронами. На відмінність від пікапів, квадроцикли можуть проїхати по
Right, and you can see that, you know, tree lines and tree cover, functionally, this is just basically natural netting, right? It literally forms a natural net over top that is both cover and concealment for the operator. So this is, again, somewhere a pickup truck simply could not go.
тій місцевості, де це дуже складно робити звичайним цивільним
You can see, again, for Kazakh,
машинам. Ми
medevac,
зараз маємо дуже гостру потребу в квадроциклах. Долучайтеся і підтримуйте цей важливий для зберігання життя.
So, again, what I want to point out is some of the deliveries that we've done. For example, here is one. This is a drone detection system, right, that allows them to spot enemy UAVs before they show up. This is a very sophisticated system that we purchased for these guys.
Смотрит. Она в горизонт смотрит, не в землю. В кусты в тебя она смотрит. Он, в принципе, там на горизонте находится.
So you can see their FPV operators out here conducting operations while they are protected by this drone detector.
У него ж высота, видишь, там 450 метров. Как антенки от Wi-Fi эти?
Не знаю, сейчас поставим другие, проверим. Ну, пока вроде нормально.
Об этом взяли.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've talked about, again, if you are on the Combat News channel, you know that these FPVs are really, the quadcopter drones now can fly so tall, so high. Again, exceeding, as he pointed out, exceeding 450 meters, which is crazy. It can do interceptions of again, strategic assets like Shaheds, which is wild. So again, all the while they've got the cover. But also, I want to show you guys just how much netting we've purchased. Look at this. Look at this. Remember, this is like an entire roadway, essentially, is potentially going to be covered in netting, right? So guys who would have otherwise been just getting hit right and left, right, totally exposed, are now covered for more of their journey. you can see how hard it is with a constantly moving front line, how important it is to be able to put this netting up. And we'll see if they show how it looks like when it's suspended in sort of a tube over top the main roadways.
Забрали 10 штук.
Все?
Зараз должно приїхати.
You know, and the other takeaway from this is that you have to understand that when you see some of this stuff in combat, you got to understand that how much logistics happens behind the scenes, right? I mean, just take a look at just how complex and long this is, just to get, again, this is maybe a few kilometers, if that, of defensive netting. But look at all the netting they've done. But all of that is just going to be roadways after roadways after roadways, and other uses. Like, I think some of it might go sort of as canopies over top vehicles. Some of it might actually be used even in positions. But anywhere that this netting can be useful, it's going up. And again, the upside is, even if it doesn't like stop a drone, right? The idea is that the drones won't even try to penetrate the netting. So it's just going to it's going to push that safe zone further and further, and it's going to push the danger zone, make that smaller and smaller. You can see how this forms kind of a cohesive strategy of extend the line of protection from these fiber optic drones as far as possible, create this smaller gap, and then use the shotguns and the mobility gear, the quad bikes, to zip right into a safer position, right? So you then spend way less time exposed. Okay, so I want to point out, of course, a few more pieces of
Бажаю міцного, вільний світе. Ми, команда безпілотних «Форспост» та 34-та бригада морської піхоти.
Right, this is gear from the Marine Brigade. Shout out to them to having a cool crab on their patch. Hell yeah. But look at this. They've gotten thermal drones, recon drones, FPV drones, antennas, tablets, generators, and power stations.
Хотіли подякувати Урі та Джоні з Ukraine Air Ops та BigMax Battle Block за те, що вони надали нам усе це необхідне обладнання вартістю десятків тисяч доларів для боротьби з російською агресією. Дякуємо.
Yeah, this is awesome. Also, Big Mac Battle Blog is just a fucking great name. But you can see some more swag here. Again, drop to these guys at the 225th. And, you know, one of the themes here that we have really tried to do is, you know, you're like, oh, a lot of these units. So some units have a really awesome presence in the West. They have awesome social media. Magyar's Birds, Azov, right? They don't have a problem fundraising. But a lot of these units, some units are like just dysfunctional. But there's this other huge number of units who are extremely well led, extremely combat effective, extremely well trained, but they don't have a great social media presence. And so they don't receive that fundraising that you guys see. I mean, literally, we're not fundraising them like things that are nice to have. We're fundraising them things that are essential for their operation. And so the fact that we find these units, UAO identifies these units and says, listen, what do you guys need to be more effective than you already are? And then you guys and Preston Stewart and other social media creators, we help be the link between the people that want to help and the units that need the help but don't have the social media savvy to put out lots and lots of content to fundraise independently. And so the result is that you have these units that are all sorts of cool units. You can literally see my unit patch wall over there. And a lot of you guys, I know for a fact, have your same unit patch wall because you fundraise, you donate to these units and you hook them up with the stuff they need, right? And that makes them even more effective on the battlefield and even safer. So thank you guys as truly. The link is going to be in the description. And remember to hit the subscribe button. That's free and helps me out tremendously. And of course, those of you at Combat Vet News, folks like James J21, Yanko Georgiev, Chris Gorsuch, Paul Templeton, Cytronics, all of our Lieutenant Tier members. You guys make this whole thing possible. Thank you so much. I'll see you. Cheers.